on the Back to Africa show is Dr. Jerome Paige, and he's a die-hard Pan-African. He's a lover of the motherland. He's an economic, business, and organizational consultant. Interestingly, he's the father of Dr. Gina Paige, the co-founder, African Ancestry, based on his www.African Ancestry results. He shares genetic ancestry with the Yoruba, Hausa, and Fulani in Nigeria, and Kru in Liberia. He has visited 3 African countries: Ghana 2019, Egypt in 2021, and Sierra Leone in 2021. Nigeria and Liberia are his list of countries to visit. I just read the biography of our guest today, and I'm hoping today will be quite interesting. So today we'll be doing a lot, and we are hoping today will be quite interesting. We'll be looking at the subject of Black consciousness. Okay.
Good.
Okay, so I actually did a brief introduction of Doc. So I'll just like the Doc to do an introduction of himself. Please, Doc, I would like you to introduce yourself to some of our group members. Yes, we want to know you more because we'll be doing a lot of talking on this show. We're hoping that everyone learns a lot from you, sir. So,
sure.
Yes, so I want to know you more. Just introduce yourself to us.
Okay, my name is Jerome Paige, and I live in Washington, D.C., which is in the United States. I'm an economist and also a business and organizational development consultant.
Okay, welcome on the show, sir. We're happy to have you on. So, sir, we'll be talking about a lot of things. Before we start this discussion, I would want you to know about, I would just like to reiterate on what we do at the Black Pilgrimage Group here. So this movement was birthed because of the need to connect the Blacks in diaspora to the motherland. And from your profile, I see already that you are in line with this vision. You are very interested in Pan-Africanism, and you've had some experience traveling Ghana, Egypt, and Sierra Leone, like the record you gave me here. So we would like to know a lot of things because some of the people here actually just want to visit. They've not really tried it out before. They just have the desire and they actually yearn to be in Africa, but they've not really tried it out. So we want to be discussing a lot of things, some of the arguments we have, some of the dialogues that people have all the time about this Pan-Africanism and all that. So, sir, I would like to ask this question. There's something I noticed. I noticed that many African Americans tend to go to other continents, but we have few African Americans traveling or paying any visits to Africa. Why does this happen?
You were asking the question, why don't more African Americans travel to countries in Africa?
Yes.
And
yes.
I was saying, I think that's probably has been the trend in the past, but more recently, there are more and more folks who are traveling to Africa. I think probably now, in the case of United States, it's people tend to have familiarity with countries in Central America, South America. So there are a lot of vacationing that takes place there, trips to Europe. But I've, or at least among my circle of friends, not only are more people traveling to Africa, many of them are repatriated. They're actually, in one trip that I went on to Sierra Leone that was mentioned, that of about 20 people on the trip got dual citizenship. They got Sierra Leone.
Wow. Wow.
A couple of those people on the trip who were African American were living in Ghana, but they were, because of the program, which was based, the citizenship could be based on the results people got from their AfricanAncestry.com results. And since they had genetic ancestry with the Mende or the Limba, or not the Mende, but the various groups in Sierra Leone, they were able to get dual citizenship. And not only did they leave with the passport, but more recently, they were even able to open up bank accounts. So
Wow.
it's not a commitment of traveling, getting citizenship, but also of beginning to invest in the country. So I think the tide has turned. More people are interested in going. I just see many, many more advertisements for groups sponsoring trips to Africa. So I think this is people are interested not just in. We use the term Africa, but we know that Africa is a continent that's made up, I think, of 54 countries and several hundred ethnic groups. So what people have been able to do is identify countries and ethnic groups that they share genetic ancestry with, and then they're going there. The other is that in a case like Ghana, many African Americans, or I should say many, but it was a cadre of African Americans who migrated back to Ghana due to the Black consciousness awakening, Black awareness, the African-centric approach. And 40, 50 years later, they're still there. And so there's quite a large group of African Americans residing in Ghana. Ghana is one of the countries that I think the issue of, it's just a question now of getting the momentum. The countries themselves have been, the countries meaning the African countries, have been more aggressive in encouraging African Americans to come and visit. That was spearheaded by the success of the initiative that Ghana gave in 2019, when they welcomed all Africans from the diaspora back home.
Wow.
And the 2019 was the 400th. It was a commemoration of the 400th anniversary of when the first enslaved Africans from Ghana were embarked and landed in Jamestown, Virginia. So that was quite a large tourist and cultural event for Ghana, and several of the other West African countries have attempted to replicate that. So I think there's a push on for that. And then I think another thing that's driving it, and pretty much drove it back in the 60s, is that increasingly African Americans are seeing the United States, while an important country, as fundamentally a hostile environment. And so it's an attempt to share an experience where you're not under constant surveillance.
Okay. So you said a lot, but something really caught my interest. You said there was a time you visited Sierra Leone and they gave some African American citizenship. So how was the process? Was it tedious? And how long did it take to get their citizenship?
I was not one of those who were eligible, okay, because my genetic ancestry goes back to Nigeria.
Nigeria, okay.
Their genetic ancestry with the Hausa, the Fulbe, and the Yoruba, and then also the line that goes to Liberia through. So that was a program of AfricanAncestry.com. They had made arrangements with the Bureau of Tourism and whatever other agencies to offer citizenship to people who could establish that they shared genetic ancestry with the various groups in Sierra Leone.
So do you know of any provisions at the moment for maybe Nigerian citizenship? Have you heard of any?
Well, anybody can apply for dual citizenship. So I don't want to. It's just a question of what the process is. In fact, somebody just one of my posts, a woman who was on the Sierra Leone trip, she was also not hadn't tested her ancestry back to Sierra Leone. She was just interested in the trip itself. Interested in the trip itself, and she just recently posted that her after she took the African ancestry, her results came back Nigerian. And she'd already gotten her passport, but she had applied for dual citizenship in Nigeria. So I don't think it's a complicated process, but it's just one that we often don't think.
Okay. So your first visit to Africa was in Ghana in
Yes.
2019. So I've heard people say that the first time they visited Africa, they felt this powerful emotion, like they felt this emotion. So how was it like the first time you came to Africa? What was the feeling like?
Well, I heard that too.
Okay.
I heard that there was this powerful emotion when you get there, and I had talked to numerous people, studies and novels, testimonials. So I said, yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't expecting a profound shift when I got to Ghana. But when I got on the plane, and it was shared by others that were part of my trip. But yeah, it was a profound shift. You could just you felt as if a burden had been lifted off of you.
Wow.
You felt the release. You felt that nobody was when you're an African American in Africa, in the United States, there's a certain surveillance aspect of your life. You don't know. It's just part of what we didn't realize how much we had internalized that until we were in an environment where that didn't have to happen. And so, yes, so I became I had to add my testimony to to what I thought was which is a well stated narrative that you just feel different when you get there. And
wow.
So that was true when I went to Ghana. And I figured, well, it couldn't happen the second time. It was true when I went to Egypt. I said, well, surely it's not going to happen a third time. And it was true when I went to Singapore. There is just something in the air that welcomes you, or I shouldn't say welcomes you, but there's something in the air that is different than in the United States.
Wow. That's lovely. Okay, sir. Yesterday while we were speaking, you talked about the system of Pan-Africanism. I don't really know much about it, but I understand that Pan-Africanism has to do with Black identity. Like every Black man, Blacks in diaspora, the Blacks in every person of African descent. So, do you understand about the concept of Pan-Africanism?
Well, let me say, well, African Americans we were enslaved, and part of the process of enslavement is to strip people of their language, to strip people of their religion, to strip people of their family, to strip people of their culture. So you are basically situated in this sense of a cultural amnesia. And when African slave got to the different part in the Caribbean, the United States, there were many of them who tried to hold on to their African traditions, and if you go to Brazil now or part of Cuba, people will say there's sections of Cuba and you would not recognize as Brazilian or Cuban, but actually authentic African communities. So they've kept the traditions going. So that while we had this experience in America, there was also a recognition that we were part of this global system of colonialism, of exploitation, of enslavement. And so recognizing that our liberation in the United States from a system of enslavement, of plantation economy, and our liberation of ourselves as individuals was to recognize our Africanness. And so periodically, there's been a push for more and more Pan-African view of the world. In the early 1920s, 30s, there was Marcus Garvey in the United States, who was probably considered one of the major promoters of Pan-Africanism in the United States and the Caribbean. Very powerful movement. And like many successful African-American movements, in case he was born in the Caribbean, they got disrupted by the powers to be, so the organization became under attack. But through scholars like W.E.B. Du Bois, there was a sense of that the diaspora needed to recognize that our history did not begin with enslavement, for one, and that our true power existed in our historical contributions that have existed for thousands of years, even before European society. And then, so the second thing is that as a collective body, as we're able to unite in the diaspora in England and Canada, in South America, Central America, Britain, and that we're in fact an important body, both economically and politically and culturally. And so the push for Pan-Africanism is to recognize that our roots are in Africa. There was a disruption, a historical disruption that took place, and then it's an attempt to reestablish those roots.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would add that this is highlighted by there's a group called the African Union.
Yes.
And the African Union, we hear about the European Union, so we know there's a collection of countries. We hear about the United States. The United States is a union. It's a union of 50 states. So and there are 54 countries in Africa with resource-rich countries. This whole notion that if we came together as a collectivity in Africa and formed this union, that we could not only we could advance ourselves as Africans. And the African Union has divided Africa into 5 regions. Mm-hmm. But there's also a 6th region, which is called the diaspora. So it recognizes all those people who are outside of the United States.
Wow.
And that's clearly kind of a contemporary way of speaking to Pan-Africanism, that even though we are not physically located on the continent, and we're not one of the 5 regions geographically on the continent, that the diaspora, in effect,
is a part of it.
A 6th region, and is an integral part of the African Union.
Okay, wow. Oh, that was like the first time I was hearing that, though. So I have one other question here. So then, why is it I've heard people say it's not really important that Black Americans actually have a history too in the United States, so they really don't want to have any connection whatsoever with Africa. So I want to ask this question, that why is it important for Blacks to make a heritage trip, a heritage visit to their ancestral homelands in Africa? Why is it important?
Because if you take the view that it's not important, and there are a lot of people who do that, and I don't disrespect that they take that view, but our history didn't begin with enslavement. Our history didn't begin with being victims of a racist oppressive system, which we call Jim Crow. Our history didn't begin with our being a denial of our being, of who we are. So we have to go back beyond the beginning of slavery to establish who we are.
Sure.
Now, if we look at a timeline of world history, and let's say you take the Kemetic societies, those timelines might begin 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years ago.
Sure.
The last 400 years is just a blip in the historical timeline. And what this reconnection to Africa does, it reestablishes us in this historical timeline, independent of that aberration called enslavement. And not only does it do that, it also then gives us an opportunity to share cultural aspects of our lives that are not being denied by the dominant white power structure here in the United States.
Thank you so much.
So for me, I would rather say that I hail from the kingdoms of Nigeria, the kings and queens and all that, as opposed to saying that my history began with enslavement, that I'm fundamentally a slave. And I can't get into that my basic nature is one of being a slave. It looks like you're frozen there for a moment.
You said?
Or you were frozen for a moment, but now you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
Your picture.
Yes. Yeah, you said, so actually, we're looking at having a group trip. This is the first trip we'll be having, and we're hoping that people turn out for it. The dream is actually to bring at least 1,000 Black Americans. I know there are millions of Blacks in diaspora in Brazil, in America, in France, all over. There are Blacks everywhere. And most of the time, when you trace back to history, it starts from the transatlantic slave trade. So the goal of this movement is actually to bring as much as 1,000 people. We want to entice people to the motherland and make people reconnect. It's just, to us, we believe it's more than just a trip. It's a heritage visit for every person who would want to, just like you said, your friends repatriating and all that. We are hoping to go deeper and much more. So you said you would like to visit Nigeria. When would that be happening, sir?
Well, tentatively on my calendar, I have to go back and find the dates but in August in Nigeria, one of the festivals there's a very popular festival in Nigeria, that's I don't know whether I forget the name of the spiritual group.
Okay.
And a colleague of mine had put out some feelers last fall as who would be interested in attending the festival in August of 2022. And I had indicated that I was interested. And then going online, I noticed that there are a number of cultural, religious festivals that are practiced.
Yes, so many of them.
I forget the name of the one that's the big one in August. So I don't know whether my colleague, who she's in Britain, and she's been sponsoring trips to different countries in Africa, and this is one she was planning. You're joining a vast array of people who are organizing trips to Africa. There are a lot of folks, which is good. The more there are, the better. But that seems to be a new field of where people are really excited about promoting trips, going beyond the traditional tourist things, helping people get embedded in the country. A colleague of mine, which is also a trip that I'd like to take. He tested. He was from his test. He was from Igbo, and he actually went and lived in an Igbo. Okay, he actually lived in an Igbo village for a while, so he didn't go to Nigeria to do the tourist type. So I would love to, be able to spend some time in a Hausa village or a Fulbe village or a Yoruba village, just to get a sense of the practices and the culture. So I don't think I'm as much interested in the typical tourist attractions, but as getting
the tribal lifestyle.
Yeah, getting a sense of, and when we were in Ghana, that was one of the hallmarks of the trip. Same thing with Sierra Leone. We actually went and visited with peoples in the villages and interacted with them. And I find those aspects of the trip to be just as exciting as being able to stay in a 5-star hotel.
Wow.
It's not one or the other. You know, they're both nice, but it gives you a variety of experience. So when we were in Egypt, I was sorry that we didn't have more time to spend with the Nubians, because their culture, while clearly influenced by the dominant tourist types of things, was distinctive enough that you got a different flavor for what it meant to live as a Nubian. And Nubians in that part of Egypt are considered to be basically the original people. And so there's a sense that they migrated from Ethiopia on down through West Africa, from Egypt and then down to West Africa. So yeah, but that would have been an expanded opportunity. Now, once you move from the main cities, you know, accommodations become challenging, and just because of there are fewer of them, and if you're used to staying in the 5-star hotels, then you just have to go. And that is probably one of the major changes that I've experienced in each of my trips. As indicated, I'm recent travelers, just starting in 2019, and I had to wait for COVID to hit to travel. And I started traveling in 2012. Nobody else is traveling. I'm out there. So what's wrong with this picture? Is that one of the things that you let go is your preconceptions or your sensibilities about what it's like to live and be in Africa. And once you'd be able to embrace that, the life and appreciation of the life becomes increasingly immense. One of the things I still haven't adjusted to is the large markets, the large African market.
Oh.
When we first experienced one in what was considered to be the largest market in Ghana, I couldn't take it. It took me a couple of times. It was just such, well, how can I describe it? Just constant motion and movement, and the flow and the exchange of goods. So half of our group jumped right in. It was like they were right at home. And the other half said, you know, let's go back and process it and come back the next day. So I'm part of the group that had to process it and come back the next day, because it is a different way of just exchanging. In the United States, we're used to having shopping malls, but you have open markets where you can get everything.
Yes.
From caskets to perfume,
Yes,
from lumber and steel, concrete to the latest fashions, and all this is there together. And there's a vibrancy, and there's a movement, there's an excitement, there's an aliveness to it that we have in the United States.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. You said a lot, and I hope everybody have learned. We've had a lot to learn today. I don't know if there's anyone watching who would have any question for Doc. Like, if you have any question for the doctor, you can just drop it in the comment section. Okay, I think many people have gone off, but thank you so much for today. I'm just hoping next time we'll not have to deal with these technical issues.
Well, let me say, I do these lives, so it's always a technical issue.
Okay.
That's what happens is you just don't get frustrated when they happen. That's the only.
Okay. Thank you so much.
It's not that the technical issues go away. It's that as you've exhibited here, You just got to be patient. You'll figure out a way to work it out.
Okay,
You know?
okay.
The issues are going to be there because the internet is clunky, and you know, since we're dealing across times, you're in Lagos, I'm in Washington D.C. There's some issues, but I'll be glad to come back and
Of
chat.
course.
Yeah.
Doc, we're hoping to have you because you have a lot to say. Like I learned a lot, and I'm sure many people out there learned a lot today. And we're hoping to have maybe some other time would arrange for you to be here. And as for those people watching the program and would want to be a part of the group trip, because we actually have a group trip coming up in June. So we actually give out a discount every time we have this show, this live events on Saturday, to those who would book a trip today, book their appointment with me or any of our tour guides.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're actually giving out a discount for that today.
I noticed that your trip is 8 days. Is that right?
Yes, sir. It's 8 days.
Okay. And what are going to be some of the highlights of your trip?
Okay. We'll be going to the Lekki Conservation. It's mostly in Lagos State. Nigeria is very wide. It's very big. We have 36 states in Nigeria, but we'll be spending time in Lagos State. And Lagos State is the largest city, or the most busy city in Nigeria. So they'll be mostly experiencing city life, not the typical tribal rural life. So we'll be also going to some of the tourist spots. We have the Lekki Conservation Center. We'll be going to the Badagry Heritage Museum. That's where most of the transatlantic slave trade and dealings they had. That's where it happened. Like, it's somewhere in Yoruba land. Badagry is somewhere in Yoruba land where the slaves were actually shipped. There you have the Atlantic Ocean. So that's where it happened. So we'll be going there. We'll be going to La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resorts. Then we'll be walking like the streets, the markets, like you experienced. We'll be going to the markets, the local regions of the area. I don't have it here all lined up.
Well, I'm market ready now, and I can handle it now. I can handle it.
Okay.
All right. Check it
Most times you have to negotiate. Like, I don't know if it's the same thing in Ghana, but it's in Nigeria and I think many African countries. It's not like a mall where you pick up an item and they tell you the price. It's like when they hear your American accent, they just feel he has money. So they want to actually increase the price. So you have to bring in your negotiation skills to buy. Yes. So, sir, thank you, Doc, for being on this program. I really appreciate your time here.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you so much.